Hi everyone, thanks for checking out our video. I'm Alexandra White here with sportsbook legend and my father, Kenny White. If you like this video, please make sure and like it and share it. We're going to hear some fascinating stories about his career. Let's get started. So you were born in New Jersey and grew up in Las Vegas. How did your love for sports betting begin?
Well, hey, Alex, it's a pleasure being with you today. And I'm, honored. It's been a long run. My dad, your grandfather, moved the family to Las Vegas in 1968. I was 5 years old, and he moved the family here for one reason. That was because sports betting was legal in Nevada. He'd been here about 4 or 5 years earlier and was amazed that you could bet sports, go into an establishment and bet. So he was really, thinking about it for years that he wanted to come here, and finally did it in 68, as I said. And I think it's, a matter of sports. Athletics was in the family. My dad had me playing all sports at a young age, playing baseball, basketball, no football, but baseball, basketball mainly were the two sports he had me playing. And he published his first college football magazine in 1972, which I would have been 9 years old at the time. And I collated the magazine around the ping pong table. So I got to learn a little bit about sports and why he was doing it, and sports betting. And again, 73 and 74, same thing. And 75, he took off. 76, I was at that time 13, 14 years old. And I had already taken a typing class in middle school. So I typed his 1977, his 1977 college football guide. I typed it from beginning to end. He gave me the written notes, and I typed it up on pages to put it in a sheet for the printer to be printed up. So I guess basically, it was just in the family blood. And I knew my dad was betting, and I loved sports, loved playing, was always had sports games, either whether outside playing basketball or baseball or playing tabletop games that were sports games.
Do you remember your first ever sports bet and how old you were?
Yeah, I do. I ask that a lot of people that when I meet them that they got into the business, because I'm curious how other people got into the business. My first sports bet was at 10 years old, and it was the Super Bowl. And I can remember it like it was like yesterday. I bet a kid named Joe Garcia. Now, every day in fifth grade, we used to go to school an hour and a half early, because we'd play baseball or basketball or football. We played football as well before school for an hour before school started. We had about 20 kids that would come every single day an hour before school. Bruce Llewellyn's a really good friend who I still talk to this day, and he can name off all 20 guys right now that were out there. But Joe Garcia was one. He was a catcher and a middle linebacker, and he was just a tough guy. He was the big bully of the school. He really wasn't a bully. He was just really strongest kid out there at that age. And we bet in the Super Bowl. I bet the Miami Dolphins. He had Minnesota Vikings, and I bet $5. My team, the Dolphins, won. I won my first ever sports bet. Went to school on Monday, and I'm thinking I'm either going to get beat up or I'm not getting paid. It's one of the two. But I was shocked. He handed me $1 and said, "Here, Kenny, I'll pay you my lunch money for the entire week. I'll get you paid off by Friday." At 10 years old, that dealing went on.
Did you know you always wanted to be in the sports betting business, or did you have another career path in mind?
I think the career path I had in mind was being a professional baseball player. But it was talked about. My entire family talked about it, that I would be a professional baseball player. Was on all-star teams from 10 years old up to, high school, and played a couple of years of college baseball, and then a couple of years of minor league baseball. And I really thought that would be the way I would go. And that was always going to be my dream, was to be a professional baseball player. Injuries kind of sidetrack you here and there, and really tough business. It is a big business. You need to get a good break. You really need to stay focused. But I had some fun in college, had some fun in the minor leagues, and really enjoyed it. But I knew my fallback was going to be the sports betting industry.
Now, you kind of spoke about it with your dad and it being in your family, but when did your professional life in sports betting really begin?
Yeah, funny that I made my first bet at 10 years old, but I was betting daily at 16 years old. I was going to the Palace Station which was called the Bingo Palace at that time. And it was on Sahara and the 15 freeway in Las Vegas. And it was a local casino. And a lot of my kids, that the guys, friends of mine that I went to high school with, would all go there as well to bet in the sports book. There were probably about 20 of us that went bet there. And everyone was well underage, but I was 16 years old going there betting every single day. But professionally in the industry, working in the industry, never really thought it was going to happen. I was 20 years old playing softball on a Sunday night team that was a great softball team. We didn't ever lose a game, I don't think. And I had told the manager one weekend that I couldn't play. I was probably going to have to stop playing, couldn't come on Sundays because I was taking a job that was going to require any work on Sundays. And they said, no, you're not. How much is that job paying? I was it was minimum wage, I think, at that time even. And they said, no, you're coming to work for us tomorrow, and we're going to pay you double minimum wage. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'll take the job, but I'm not 21 yet. They said, don't worry about it. We run the Santa Anita Race and Sportsbook. Come down. You'll start tomorrow. This was like in March or April. And when you turn 21, we'll send you downtown to get your gaming card. So I actually started working in the sportsbook industry before I was 21 years old and getting a paycheck at the Santa Anita Race and Sportsbook.
Was the Santa Anita the only sportsbook you worked at, or was there another stop after that?
No, I was privileged to work as the sportsbook director at the Fremont Hotel. At 24 years old, I was given that job. And now, when I was working at the Santa Anita, I was actually playing minor league baseball. So it was great. They would allow me to go play minor league baseball in the summertime. I would come back and I would work for them. Whenever I could work for them, they were willing to have me. And then at 24, my baseball career was over. And my boss, Jeff Garrett, he got hired at the Fremont to be the race and sportsbook director. He hired me to be a sportsbook manager. I was the youngest manager in the state anywhere, 24 years old by far. I think the youngest manager was probably in his mid 30s when I was 24 years old and got the sportsbook manager's job.
Now, working behind the counter at Santa Anita and Fremont Casino, who are some of the sharpest bettors you went head to head with?
Well, I'll tell you the one that always will come to mind always is going to be Chuck Sharp. And Chuck and your grandfather were very good friends. My dad taught Chuck a lot about basketball and how to handicap basketball and how to end time. And Chuck, my dad told Chuck he needed to use a stopwatch, time each team and see how fast it takes them to get the ball up court from when they get it out of bounds or off a rebound to when they take a shot. And when you find the fastest teams, pair them up, go over. When you find the slowest teams and you pair them up, go under in those games. Chuck became the greatest NBA totals handicapper of all time. He probably had about a 6 to 8, 10-year run that he just destroyed the NBA. Never really bet college basketball. Did a little bit towards the end of his career, but he made big money. And I had several conversations with Chuck, some great stories that I could share a couple with you right now. One is that I had followed the NBA very closely. It was the first sport I ever handicapped. And I followed the referees. I started seeing that I was losing my totals. I felt because of the referees. So I started tracking referees. And I found one referee named Earl Strom. And Earl Strom was a dead under official. Earl's the fouls in his games averaged 25 per game. The average NBA game had 50. He called half the fouls of a normal NBA games. And the things he loved to blow his whistle on was charging, traveling, and 3 seconds, all against the offenses. His free throws, they averaged 30 free throw attempts a game. The average game was 60. And his games went under by about 20 points. And we started betting this, me and my partner, Jeff Garrett, who's my boss there. We were betting every day. Besides booking in the book, we were betting the other downtown sports books. And we would wait for that ticker for them to come across. Earl Strom is the referee. And I would go running out and I would hit as many books as I could to bet that game under. And we had a great run with it. And then all of a sudden we started to realize Chuck was on every one of our games. And he was betting these games at 10, 11 in the morning. And we just had no idea how. And one day when I got together with him, I said, Chuck, are you related to Earl Strom in any way? Or did you guys go to high school? Do you know who Earl Strom is? And he said, wow. He said, no one has ever asked me something like that. He says, but I know what you're talking about. And I hired a private detective to follow Earl Strom around from city to city. So I knew where he was at. So when he got to a city, I knew he would be refereeing that game that night. And it was an automatic under bet for me. One of the best edges I had in sports. So one thing that I found, that's what Chuck Sharp had going for him. Chuck also did tell me we had something else going for him, is that he would get the totals from New York City, NBA totals, and he would be able to compare those to Vegas. And he had 10-point middles a lot of times. And I said, who was better, Vegas or New York? And he said, I think it was about a toss-up. I think they're about the same. That number should have been in the middle. So if one was 210 and the other was 220, he was going under 220 and over the 210 and driving them both to around 215, and they would meet in the middle. And he said they were both about the same, but he made a lot of money doing that as well. So arbitrage, Chuck Sharp was.
If Chuck Sharp was so good, why would you take his action?
Well, that's a good question, because we want to know what he's on. When you're a sharp bookmaker, you want sharp bettors. You want to know who they're betting, and a lot of times when they tell you who they're betting, you know why they're betting it. So we would want to know get Chuck's information, basically. Chuck was only getting $500 on his totals from us. So we could move those totals 1.5 or 2 points and try to get somebody else to bet the other way. We could also use that information for ourselves in our own betting to know who Chuck Sharp liked as well. So, but it was mainly for the book to know, where he was at. And we would do that with all sharp bettors. Jeff Garrett was very good. Jeff taught me how to book, and he was the sharpest ever that I had met. And Jeff would take on all comers because he was always able to get someone else to bet the other side. And it was always a great strategy. You want to know who the better team is. So when you have someone who walks up to the counter that bets with you every day, and they want to bet on a game that's opposite of one of your sharp bettors, they can bet more than the betting limit at that point. You can open them up and let them bet as much as they want. So very important to take sharp betting action.
You said Chuck Sharp was an arbitrage player or bettor. How do you know when somebody is?
Well, I never knew Chuck was for the longest time until I talked to him about it. But other arbitrage bettors that we dealt with, you would know who they were because they never took a bad number. And the one thing that we did all the time, Jeff and I, we were always getting rundowns from the Stardust. And back in that day, there was no computers. There was no websites you could go get a betting line on. It was all done by phones. And we had a direct connection to the Stardust. We were a Boyd property. We were a sister property of the Stardust Hotel, the famed Stardust, who they opened up first every day at 8 a.m. They opened up the football first every week on Sunday nights. So their line was the sharpest. They had the sharpest bettors in the world betting them every day. So we would get their betting line, get a complete rundown, and we would do that every hour because we wanted to make sure we knew where the line should be. Well, we were always in line, and we always shaded our line to our opinions and who we liked. But our shade was only 0.5 point. We wouldn't shade more than 0.5 point on those games. Anyone's opinion in the sports betting area that's a bookmaker, everyone knows that your opinion is worth one bet, and that's it. Once you get it, you're done. You don't shade any more to that game, but you would move games. So, but arbitrage players, you would know every time that when the line moved, they would bet it. And also you would know that at the end of the run of a sharp move, that if it was the computer group or Billy Walters, he was the computer group, or some of the other sharp guys that we booked to, Len Banker, Blackie, guys that won every day and bet limits, when they all kind of piled on the same teams. But at the end of the run, and let's say, I'll give you an example. If it was the Cowboys and everybody was on the Cowboys and they steamed them from 7 to 10, an arbitrage guy would be one of the few that would come back and take the 10. And what you knew was they laid a better number and they laid 7. The guys that were betting their opinion would never come back and bet the other side of a move. Only the arbitrage guys bet the other side of the move. And I guess maybe they're the smartest because they're the guys getting on the side of the sports book at that point, but they got on the move early too. And that's why arbitrage bettors don't lose, because they're getting the best of the number early and they get the best of the number late.
What was your biggest sports bet?
Biggest sports bet, I've had a couple, but and I'm not a huge bettor. I'm more of a shotgun player that I play a lot of games, and I'd rather bet the board and spread my money out. So I could bet $200, $300, $400, $500 on 50 to 100 games some days in college basketball. I had well over 100 bets some Saturdays in college basketball. The biggest one game bet that I ever made, I remember because it was one of the best years I had. It was a great NFL year. I won the Battle of the Bookies contest in the Gaming Today. And Ralph Duraco, who owned the Gaming Today, would give 2 tickets to the Super Bowl to the winner of the contest. And he called me and said, "Congratulations, Ken, you got 2 tickets. Come pick them up." I came to pick them up. And again, it was a great season. I was having a great college basketball year. November, December were amazing. I probably had about $100,000 bankroll at that time. And I love the Broncos in the Super Bowl. I'm going to the Super Bowl. I'm going to bet the Super Bowl. I bet $22,000 to win $20,000 on the Broncos plus 9.5. And they played the New York Giants. It was John Elway and Phil Simms. And Phil Simms was unbelievably accurate that day. I don't know if he had 1 or 2 incompletions the entire day. I think he still has the Super Bowl record. The Giants went up and down the field. They won the game 39-20. I was so depressed, my first Super Bowl, and lost 1/5 of my bankroll on one game that I thought was a great bet because I think I made the Broncos the favorite in the game and was getting 9.5 points. But on my way home, driving home, I think I had gotten home already. I took my dad. It was me and my dad went to the game. I took him to the game. When I got home, I got a phone call from one of my best friends, Greg Sidoris. And he goes, "Man, what a game." And I said, "Yeah, it was the worst game ever." He goes, "Oh, what?" I said, "Yeah, it was terrible. I had the Broncos and I got destroyed." And he said, "Well, I have good news for you." And I said, "What's that?" He says, "We won the pool at the Tap House, and it was a $100 bet on the square." And Greg wrote it down on number 19 and wrote on the thing, "Banking on Bernie," which meant Bernie Kosar, who was his favorite quarterback. And 19 was the final score, 39-20, 9 and the 0 or the 1, I think it was. With square 19 was those 2 numbers that they matched up. And it was a $10,000 win. And we each got $5,000. So I did get some of my money back from that Super Bowl loss.
Tell me about a learning experience through sports betting that you've had to face.
That was a pretty good one right there. Did not bet that big of a bankroll, but maybe, and I don't know when this happened. The one that really comes to mind to me was a college basketball when I don't know if it was that same year or if it was maybe a year after, because I had a really good run, a 3-4 year run of college basketball. And 1 week, Jeff made the same mistake. He went in with me. We had a tremendous week 1 week, and we won about 20,000 each. We were up 20,000 for the week, and it was Sunday, and we had a bunch of plays on Sunday to bet, and we had decided that there was 2 huge totals, and we were destroying totals all week. We couldn't lose on totals all week long, and there were 2 totals that were 20 points off. We just kept hammering them as much as we could get, and we got down about $10,000 each on each total. So I had 11,000 on each total and lost both totals that day. Went 0-2. That was a big lesson too. We probably won 200 games and lost 50 for the week and broke even. It was probably one of the worst feelings you could ever have after working that hard for an entire week. So, you get greedy, and that's what greed is, the worst thing that a sports bettor can have. Don't ever get greedy. Just try to earn a little bit, generate a little bit more today than you had yesterday, and have a little bit more in your pocket tomorrow. And that's the best philosophy. It's like the turtle and the hare. Be a turtle when it comes to betting sports.
Great stuff. Thank you so much. We're out of time for today. I'm looking forward to the next episode. In episode 2, we'll cover your purchase of the Las Vegas sports consultants, the investigation in the Toledo point shaving scandal, the path to helping professional leagues and NCAA in fraud protection and education, your sale of LVSC to Cantor Gaming, and your time at Don Best Sports, Hot Roster, CBS Sports HQ, and now KennyWhiteSports.com. Thanks everybody for watching this video. Please like it. Please share it. We'll see you next time. Dad, thank you.
It's been a lot of fun, Alex. Been a pleasure, and we have a lot to talk about. It may take more than one video to do everything you just talked about. I think we could have done 2 or 3. I could have done probably 20 more minutes on this video today.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.